transparent and that things move responsibly. To this date, there's no transition plan in place, and that's unacceptable.
Good afternoon. My name is Eskimo Jackson, Baby Hunts Point. I wasn't going to speak on this issue in the beginning, but I would like to say that last meeting that I attended with the Redevelopment Agency Commission, the budget for the staff was up until June 30th. And it is your responsibility, is not to do what you thinking you can do, one of the commissioners here, but it is the responsibility of the mayor and as well as the staffing. Your responsibility is to make sure that you have the staff to do the job for the going out of the redevelopment agency. One of the agencies that you mentioned, you know, I've been dealing with redevelopment since 1968. And we have to understand that you can't do business as usual, and especially when it comes to Baby Hunters Point and Shipyard, because there was a lawsuit filed, and it was passed July the 8th. You can't do anything at that shipyard, and what you need to do is get the information and make sure you know what you're doing here, and get the Superior Court decision that was made. And it was made on that day, and you can get it and you can read it because I only got another few minutes here. But what you actually need to do, because I went through the AB 26 with a fine-tooth comb. And let me tell you, you need to start on page 5, section 5, read 1994. You need to go to page 9 and then part 1.8, reconstruction, page 18, within 90 days that you will have here to do your job dealing with the staff. Page 21, also see page 30, and page 33, page 9B. Thank you, and I hope you all will be able to read and understand what you're actually reading when it comes to AB 26. And you made a mistake earlier when you said AB 21. So that way some of us can get confused. Thank you.
I am Helen Sauce. I'm sorry you didn't get my card. I thought I had turned one in. But I'm former deputy director of the agency for programs and projects, and I needed to speak to you out of that experience. You have a total disconnect here with the mayor's office studying what to do with the staff and doing so rather ineptly, it seems, and an oversight board with the responsibility for getting projects done and no staff to do them. And that disconnect is something you've got to be absolutely outraged about. You're spending your own precious time here and working on these issues, and you will have no tools with which to do them. I mention my former position only because the deployment of agency staffs throughout the city departments is self-defeating. Our agency people work on the same project. They're very different in the disciplines that they represent, and they have particular knowledge that it takes to get those projects done. The complex projects that are unbelievably diverse. It's not paving or replacing the paving in one block. It's not seeding one park acre. It is an incredibly diverse process, and it requires many disciplines to make that all work. I was project director of Yerba Buena for 17 years, and I grew on the most incredible knowledge that our staff represented to get that done. And it is so important to keep that staff and their knowledge together and connected with your needs to get your projects done. They need to be able to confer with each other easily, not try and trot around to some department and find where somebody is and knows about the architecture, the sewers, or whatever. And they need to be able to talk very freely during those projects. These are enormous projects that you've taken on, and the diverse aspects need to be addressed. Your resolution, I would suggest, is rather self-defeating. You have said in here that these staff members have valuable skills and experience, and yet...
It's on the next item.
Yes, okay. Well, I don't want to come up yet, but it is a saying in your resolution that a separate unit be maintained, and that is what police citizens should have, not only extending their time. Thank you very much.
My name is Amy Dawson. I've worked for San Francisco for 27 years, these past 4 as a former agency's administrative services manager. I'm here today because I think it's necessary you consider some information about a portion of the agency's infrastructure for which I'm responsible, the less visible functions of the agency, the people who perform the work behind the scenes, and the critical role they play as we begin to dismantle the agency. I manage the office operations and the physical plant, the agency's central records unit, and I'm also the agency's risk manager. My staff run the front desk, the print shop, mailroom, and the agency's physical plant. Due to limited time, I'll focus on the central records unit. As an example, the important work the administrative staff does. It is a repository of the agency's numerous records and documents. While this may sound like a trivial task to some of you, please take into account that we are responsible for storing and retrieving over 60 years of the agency's historical, operational, and legal records. These records exist in 3 different media. Specifically, we have over 6,000 bankers' boxes in storage with an equivalent amount of records at the office yet to be processed. Who's going to process them? Close to 50 million pages on microfiche, and over 14 million pages on microfiche, and over 46,000 documents, many pages long, that have been digitally scanned. Specifically, staff catalog, index, and digitally scan numerous agency documents, and they must be able to find and retrieve any document when needed by staff, general public, local government, or for legal purposes. You spoke earlier about complying with the Sunshine and Brown Act. This is exactly what I'm talking about. While ours is not likely a life or death situation, consider PG&E when they were ordered to find certain records after the San Bruno blast. They literally filled the Cow Palace with thousands of boxes. They went through each by hand, and they still couldn't find the records, and they were heavily fined. As the agency's risk manager, I'm concerned about managing records responsibly. There will undoubtedly be lawsuits to contend with around the solution. Do we want to be like PG&E? Do we want to spend the limited funds in litigation? Would it be fiscally responsible for this board to ensure staff be retained so that they can do this work together? They work as a team. When we get public records requests, we go and ask a number of people if we don't know. I just lost 40-year records management supervisor and 38 the second in command in records. That was a huge amount of historical knowledge that is gone. Luckily, I can call her up, and she's very nice. She talks to me in the country and tells me where to find things. But really, it's a team effort, and we need everybody in order to do this responsibly. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. I'm David Osgood. I'm with the Rubicon Center Tenants Association. I just wanted to make sure you had some citizen input on these matters as well. The redevelopment agency did a good job creating a lot of affordable housing. There's dozens, if not hundreds, of programs out there now. Those programs are not on autopilot. They need oversight. And we have every few years we have a major problem with our corporate landlords. They come along and they try, obviously they don't like the program even though they agreed to it. And they'll come along and they try to chip away at it. And they have major law firms advising them on what to do. And we can't fight that on our own, and neither can the people in the other programs. We have to turn to agency staff to help us. And we have an issue right now where our billionaire landlord is not giving out leases. They're saying they can bank rents, which means double-digit increases. And they say they can move the tenants around. Now, the redevelopment staff was going after them, and still is, I guess, until the end of the month. But it's a very precarious position, and we need staff to help out. Now, I believe MOH is helping, but it's not real clear at this point. The transparency is not there that redevelopment provided. I have confidence in Mr. Lee and so forth, but clearly they need staff to maintain these programs. So we need you to make sure that happens. I'd just like to say that you need to treat these people with respect and dignity. When our previous billionaire landlord paid off some bonds and we had to get rid of some of those BMR units, the agency stepped in and made sure they disappeared through attrition, and that the rug wasn't pulled out from under the tenants. It showed the employees the same respect. If the positions have to be eliminated, do it through attrition over time. Don't get rid of this expertise in the meantime. And lastly, you're all opinion leaders. You're people with great influence in this city, whether it's part of this board or otherwise. So we'd ask you to use that influence outside of this board to take care of these employees as well. Thank you.
We have no other speaker cards, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Hi, I guess I'm the last speaker. Good morning, commissioners. Again, thank you so much for having this meeting. I think we can't say it enough. I know that it's a very difficult position for all of you to put yourselves in. I'm sure you're thinking, I'm going to come here to give the most assets I can to BART and City College, and wow, I am dealing with quite a circumstance. But we really appreciate you hosting this, because I want to just first acknowledge that at the last meeting we had, it was really the first time a lot of our workers felt heard and really felt like they were sharing the kind of trauma and agony they're going through, trying to figure out not just what's going to happen in their livelihood, but the projects they've been working on for decades that they care so deeply about.